Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Center for Management Studies, Jain deemed to be University, we welcome you all again to the second plenary session of our two-day international conference on Atmanirbhar Bharat, Self-Reliant India, building global competitiveness through innovation, integrity, and inclusion in collaboration with Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce. In morning session, we had Dr. Chandraj Roychan, Mr. Prakash Belwadi, and Mr. Parsu Raman as our keynote speakers, followed by administrative panel discussion by BCIC members. I am particularly happy to see that our conference has attracted such a large and diverse group of speakers and participants, combining intellectual brilliance with practical experience. Now we will begin with second plenary session. Dear participants, please note the feedback form will be shared with you during the session. It is mandatory for you to fill the feedback form to get the certificate of participation. Over to Ms. Shifa.
Thank you, Shilpi ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the second plenary session on the topic Self-Sustaining Young India, Opportunities and Challenges by Social Entrepreneurs. Our panelists for the discussion are Mr. Narendra K. Pasuparthi, CEO, Nando's Chicken, Mr. Vivek Varma, Executive Leader, Business Strategist, Entrepreneurial Thinker, Coach, and Startup Enthusiast, Mr. Yogesh Shinde, Founder, Bamboo India, Mr. Mahesha Mahadevappa, Founder, Desri Naturals, and Mr. Nelson Deb, President, Bodhana, and Founder, EcoHub. The greatest good you can do for another is not just share your riches, but to reveal to him his own. The above quote summarizes the mission of our panel members. It's an absolute privilege to introduce our panel members. Our first panel member is Mr. Narendra K. Pasuparthi. He calls himself the Chief Farmer and is the CEO of Nando's Chicken. He holds a Bachelor's of Engineering from BMS College of Engineering and a Master's in Information Science and Technology from the University of Texas, Arlington. Mr. Narendra has held several honorary and advisory roles in the industry, including Honorary Secretary of Bangalore Rotary Midtown. He is also on the board of advisors for a few tech and green tech startups and is an active angel investor as part of Mumbai Angels Investors Network. Mr. Narendra is also active in contributing to society and making the difference. Our second panelist is Mr. Vivek Varma. He is an executive leader, business strategist, entrepreneurial thinker, coach, and startup enthusiast. He has 3 decades of experience in involving business strategies and value propositions, creating multi-year business plans, along with creation of multi-business ecosystems. He collaborates with the board to define and articulate the organization's vision and develop strategies for achieving the vision. He holds excellence in conceptualizing the business model, formulating and implementing the project, business plan, strategies, policies, financials, etc., and thereby successfully launching an organization. Our third panelist is Mr. Yogesh Shinde. Bamboo India is Pune-based first-generation startup by Mr. Yogesh Shinde in the year 2016. Its primary aim to change the bamboo perception from the poor man's timber to wise man's timber by providing plastic products, replacement using innovative bamboo products. It is not for the income, but for the outcome. United Nations appreciated Bamboo India's work and invited him to New Delhi to participate in Startup Innovation Exhibition on World Environment Day in 2018. Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi ji appreciated his contribution. Mr. Shinde was also invited at SAARC conferences to showcase bamboo sector success story. Last but not the least, he has signed manufacturing contract with the world's biggest oral care brand to make bamboo toothbrush in India. Our fourth panelist is Mr. Mahesh Mahadevappa. He is the co-founder of Desri Naturals. He has served in industries like electronics, manufacturing services, telecommunications, defense, and aerospace. He has traveled to Sweden, Hong Kong, Republic of China, Hungary, South Korea, Thailand, France, Dubai, and USA on various assignments. Our fifth panelist is Mr. Nelson Deb. He is a social entrepreneur from Assam. He is the founder of Eco Hub and president NGO Bodhana. The Eco Hub is a social enterprise registered under DIC in the year 2012. It has been engaged into textiles with Kantha embroidery. It provides employment to the underprivileged rural women in the area. He is also the president of an NGO called Bodhana, based in Assam. He is one of the pioneers to work on menstrual health management in the northeast of India. There are several interns from reputed college like TISS who work with the organization and have been trained by him on MHM gender and sexuality. Before we begin, I request the participants to post their questions in the Q&A section. We will take it up at the end of the discussion. Requesting all the participants and attendees to kindly fill the feedback form, which we will be sharing during the session. Mr. Vivek Varma will be moderating the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Shifa, and good afternoon to all the panelists and good afternoon to all the attendees. And thank you for joining us on a Saturday afternoon in these difficult times. So first of all, I hope all of you are staying safe and healthy, because that's, I think, the most important thing, especially when you come to talk about the topic that we have as a panel today, self-sustaining. I think it starts with us. And the most important thing that we need to do is to really sustain ourselves. And congratulations to all of us, because that hasn't been something that, some of us have been able to do in the last 18 months, which has been an extremely difficult period. And I'd like to start with, just putting a context to the topic. I think it's very important in these difficult times, like I said, and a lot of people describe these times as times which are post the pandemic, post COVID. We are waiting for things to become normal. And one of the things that I believe personally is that I don't think the world is ever going to go back to what it was prior to January 2020. So I think we are now living in what I like to call the co-COVID world. There is no post-COVID. It is now co-COVID. One, because the virus is going to stay with us for a while. I think for it to completely get eliminated, it's going to take some time. But even more important than the virus, the changes the world has seen are going to stay with us forever. Many industries have radically transformed themselves or are in the process of transforming themselves, because these changes are permanent. And hence, I like to call that the co-COVID world. So welcome to the co-COVID world, because that's where we are going to be living. Now, coming to this word self-reliance or Atmanirbhar, as from an Indian context, Atmanirbhar Bharat, as we are calling it, I think is something which is very much possible if we really invest in the future generations and sustenance, because it's very critical that if we don't do these, I don't think there is going to be self-reliance or Atmanirbhar Bharat that we can really dream of. One thing is to talk about it from a slogan perspective, I think, but we need to go beyond tokenism to really start working on that. So what we are going to be doing today is we have, an amazing set of 4 panelists who are joining me today, who have done some outstanding and remarkable work in their own areas and have demonstrated to the rest of the world. And we'll hear their stories today about how they have demonstrated this self-reliance or Atmanirbhar in their own businesses. And they've been doing some outstanding work in very different and diverse fields in terms of looking at the opportunities, and all opportunities always come with challenges. I think we all know that it's always a polarity that exists. Nothing comes by itself. So we'll hear from all of these amazing individuals today about their journey, and maybe there are lessons we will all take away about how we ourselves can become self-reliant. So let me start first by asking a question to you, Yogesh. So you are a first generation entrepreneur, who came back from Europe, to focus on sustainability and created an opportunity of replacing plastic, with bamboo. Imagine someone living in Europe, enjoying the weather, enjoying the life, and you want to give all that up and come back here and say, okay, I'm going to replace plastic with bamboo. So talk to us a little about what led you to think about this, and why is it important as you see, and for the rest of us in the world, that this needs to be focused on. Tell us the story behind Bamboo India.
First of all, thank you so much, Vivek, and the entire team for this wonderful opportunity. Okay, back to the question. Yes, it was a really wonderful life in Europe. But during that 5 years in my stay in Europe, we used to discuss lots of things about Atmanirbhar Bharat, or that time it's a more of a made in India thing, and the condition of a farmers, and how to boost economy, all those things. And everyone is blaming the government, everyone is blaming the society, everyone blaming is the political culture in India and everything. So I was also part of that discussion. But then one day I decided, okay, let's go back to India and at least serve 1 year. Just try to explore 1 year, because after the graduation, I got the placement in IT company. And I did around 14 years of IT career. And then I was not I was not a single day jobless in my career. So I was not having that gravity, how the unemployment or how these the farmers are working and all those stuff. So I thought, okay, let's go back to India, at least do 1 year on the ground, because I think I'm also part of the government. I'm also part of the citizen of India, who not only about just saying, but doing some action, right? So I came back, I started studying all those parallel options, and I found bamboo as a potential alternative. And whatever I thought, like contributing to the economy, contributing to the farmers, contributing to plastic pollution, and I found bamboo is the right solution. Because India is world's second largest bamboo growing country, which I came to know once I reading all those stuff. And I thought, okay, let's start. And then when I started the journey, now it's almost 5 years, and I'm not ready to go back to my own original corporate culture. And I think that's why journey started. It was an accident just to explore opportunity. But I think it's a very beautiful journey, and I think it's a huge future for all the farmers, and all those who are really looking for this eco entrepreneurship. So India is the right place to start any business. We have a huge customer base. That is our key point. And we have lots of problems. So we need a problem solver right now. We know we need an innovation thinker, and every change is acceptable our audience or all users. So that's really excited me in this journey.
Thank you, Yogesh. And that's a wonderful piece, that you came back for a year to take a change and see what can be done, and some amount of self-discovery. And I think what a journey it's been from them, and we'll learn a little more as we continue the conversation with you. But I think it's been, what I can take away from your answer very clearly is that it's about self-discovery. It's about understanding where your passion lies. And as the cliche goes, if you start loving what you do, then it's no longer work, it's your passion. And I think you kind of exhibit that beautifully in the work you've done here. And thank you for that, Yogesh. And we'll come back to you as we kind of go in the conversation and understand a little more about Bamboo India. With that, I'd like to move to you, Naren, and slightly different perspective here, because you are in a certain sense a second generation entrepreneur, but who has really changed things because you were not somebody who was going to kind of follow and the traditional route that the business was running, and you wanted to kind of charter your own waters and start something new and move away from the traditional way the poultry industry is run for the last 50 plus years. And you as a family have already spent over 50 years in this space, and poultry is considered a very conventional industry. And you kind of changed all of that and looked at new areas. How does you reach the end consumer? How do you change the perception of the poultry industry? And also about the very exciting new initiative that you did besides poultry. So let's hear from you, where you were not the first generation entrepreneur. So you, in a certain sense, some people may say, had it on a platter, but you decided to change the platter and say, no, this isn't the platter I want to create a new one. So let's hear from you what you did at Nandu's and also at Infectify. You're on mute, Naren.
Thank you, Vivek, for the wonderful introduction, and super excited to be here amidst all of the young minds. It's always very extremely energetic to be surrounded by such a fantastic group of entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs, right? So my journey, yes, I'm a second generation entrepreneur, and I proudly say that I'm a second generation entrepreneur because uh, I mean, a lot of us here in the audience, right? They all come from business families. And, you know, everybody else seems to think that everything is handed on a silver platter. But for somebody who is coming from within a family business, there's a lot more to prove, right? When you come from nothing, and if you're a first gen entrepreneur, you have to prove it to yourself. But when you're a part of a legacy and you're trying to make a mark and wanting to be an entrepreneur, the pressure is enormous, right? You have to prove it to yourself. Then you have to prove it to everybody around you. And most importantly, in my case, my father is a first gen entrepreneur and he came from nothing. And, for some reason, I always wanted his seal of approval. So, I think we're all born with it. We are children of them and we want to somehow prove it to them and get a good word. So working under this condition is extremely stressful, right? Too many expectations to meet. But you know what? It is a fantastic journey. Okay. So for all of you who come from family businesses, do not underestimate the power of the platform that is given to you. Appreciate it, but take it forward, right? That is very important. Don't stop at appreciation alone. Appreciate it and take it forward aggressively, right? So that is what I would like to say about me being a second generation entrepreneur. But really, I'm a software guy. I had actually moved away from the family business. I was living in the US. I got my education, then went on to work for two startups. I had a very cushy, materialistic life, But then at some point in time, the entrepreneurial bug bit us. Most of the students from Jain College are from entrepreneurial families, right? They probably can relate to what I'm saying. There is always some kida in the brain that is going, just continuously saying, you got to do something different. You got to do something different. So that's when I quit my job in the US, came back to India. And, really, I came back to join the family business, but I did not join the family business. I actually came back in 2005, I came back. And then for the next 4 years, I started two different companies. One was a processed foods company, and I was a software guy. I had no clue what was branding, how to talk to advertising agencies, branding companies, how to do PR, how to do product development, how to do FMCG, none of that stuff, right? But went with it. Okay, went with it. 2 years I spent on it, and then finally I figured there was no product to market fit, so failed. Wound up, then started my, within about 6 months or so, I started another company. And this was a DVD rental company. Again, another brand was created, 5 people, full technology. It was a kiosk that contained 1,000 DVDs, and it could rent, return anywhere, full automation. Fantastic journey. What I didn't pay attention to was piracy was so large in India, what they call as an entrepreneur's curse, right? We believe so strongly in some ideas that we forget to look outside. So that's what happened to me. And after 2 years, I had to shut that down as well. For the next 5-6 years, I think in 2009, I joined the family business. The focus was, put on the blinders, be part of the family business. That's when I got into sustainability. efficiency in productions. I ran the Dubai operations, our Dubai operations. It was a fantastic time of learning. And in 2016, I figured, again, the Kida was going crazy in the head. And then, I had to do something, right? So that's when Nandu's was born. I decided to actually produce antibiotic-free chicken from our own infrastructure. We own the feed mills, breeding farm, hatcheries, broiler farms. We own the entire integrated supply chain. And I wanted to use that, produce antibiotic-free chicken, because I was unhappy with two things. One is how chicken is retailed in India. It is pathetic, right? It is a dirty, filthy shop that gives you meat in a black plastic cover. Okay, a country where 74% of Indians consume meat deserves better. That was one motivating factor. The second was antibiotic free. So with this, I developed the product, then used the brand Nandu's and created an omni-channel hyperlocal business model. But again, while I was doing this, always the Kida is running. I was looking at another opportunity called Infectify, where we produce insect protein. And that's a circular economy company where we take urban wet waste, we grow insect larvae on it, and we take those larvae, crush it, and feed it to our chickens. So garbage gets converted into manure. The same garbage gets upcycled through insects into insect protein, which will go into replacement of soya, which is environmentally very heavy for us to grow. And chickens are doing very well. So that was the sustainability story around Infectify. But I never actually understood until I got here what was the purpose of the first two failed ventures. Okay, now after having got here, I feel that they prepared me for where I want to be. Okay, so in a sense, when I look back, like Steve Jobs says, right, the dots connect. So be patient, the dots connect. Nothing to be shameful about your family background. You can be an entrepreneur. Second generation, there's no shame in that, right? So that's my story.
Fantastic. Thank you, Naren. I think, for a lot of us listening here, I think one of the important things that you hear from Naren is that don't let failure stop you. And I think that's a very important lesson in entrepreneurship. A lot of times we feel that if we fail, that's kind of the end of the journey. And like Naren very clearly articulated here, if you speak to any successful entrepreneur, I would like to meet a majority of the entrepreneurs if they say that they succeeded the first time around. It's very, very unlikely. There may be a few lucky ones who do get lucky the first time around, but for most of us, it just means that you've got to try harder the next time around, learn the lessons and move forward. And I think Naren very clearly articulated and kind of embodies that, having done a few startups and been successful. And what he didn't mention here is that in this whole changing of the retailing of the meat market, I don't know what the latest count, Naren, is it still at around 60 stores or has it now gone to much higher number?
We are at 53 right now.
You're at 53. So they have 53 outstanding stores in the city of Bangalore, and they are slowly expanding to the other parts of the country and also of the world. So thank you very much, Naren, for kind of showing us some learnings and some insights from your life as an entrepreneur. With that, I'd like to move to another very unconventional path, Mahesh, that you took, for someone who was in what would typically be called the very conventional side of things, where there is finance, in the electronics industry, both very well established function in an established industry for over 20 years. And from there to move to something as radically different as edible oil when you started Desiree Naturals. So what made you think of this jump? And, how have you been solving social problems and making things sustainable in this new life that you started away from finance and away from electronics, all in edible oil?
Thanks, Vivek. Like the way you said, it's yes, after spending 20 plus years in the corporate in different positions, definitely it's a unconventional path for us. Like the way I mentioned, it's along with me, there are two of my colleagues. We were all colleagues, Yogesh and Naveen. We were all working in the same company. We had with a very good career, good monthly paychecks. Everything was settled, but we were not happy with our jobs. Somewhere it was tickling us. It's okay. We are not happy with the job. So we used to, whenever we used to kind of discuss with us something which we need to do in our life, there was something which we don't know what we need to do, but there was something which we wanted to do. So when we started interacting more and more, we realized one thing which bonded us is a passion towards agriculture. So agriculture is the one thing which bonded all three of us together. So we decided, okay, thinking about just, it's like, okay, I want to do something, let me try. Keeping all these things aside, we decided, can we quit our job? It was a tough decision, and can we quit our job? And finally, we three took a decision in 2017. All three of us quit our job at the same time, and wanted to do something again. When we are leaving our job, we were not clear what to do, but we wanted to do something. So after quitting our job, like the way it's one day we wanted to tell it's as it is related to the agriculture, we wanted to grow organic vegetables. The other day we think, no, we will start the organic poultry. Another day, the dairy. So there were a lot many things which was going between us. It's so what we decided, let's keep all this our justifications aside. Why don't we get a kind of a field experience? So we packed our bags and we started our journey, and we didn't know where we are going. We started our journey and we traveled almost 3,000 kilometers in a single stretch. And we came back, we had a good amount of experience in our bags. And when we studied the whole thing, we met a lot of farmers, we met a lot of people, and we noticed there are a lot of social problems. Maybe I don't want to debate or discuss on the industrialization or globalization, whatever it occurred, but it's a lot of social problems have occurred because of the chain has broken. So why can't we put that back? So when we studied further, we understood most of the health issues was occurred because of the edible oils which we are consuming. And then we decided, if at all, if you want to make an awareness on this, we wanted to create a edible oil unit or manufacturing process, the typical traditional way where our ancestors used to do 30 years back. So back from the corporate office, we jumped into the villages holding the cows and bulls. So we started extracting the edible oils using the bull-driven ganas. It's a gani, maybe I don't know how many of you. It's almost 40 years back it stopped. Hardly, we traveled around 15,000 kilometers. We were able to locate in between here and there, maybe 5, 10, but it's not many. Individually, some of them are scrapped, some of them are thrown away, but this was kind of almost the situation. So we decided to review that technology back. So we worked on that. Today I can say around 40 plus bulls, indigenous bulls, we engaged in oil extraction. Good part is those are all sent to a slaughterhouse, because agriculture, because of the automation, they don't need the bulls. So it's an additional burden to the farmer. We were able to break the social problem. There is a way we can use the bulls for oil extraction. Along with that, we were also able to create a 60 plus direct employment in the villages, the Tuina villages, and 70% are women we focused more on the women empowerment. We felt any rupee earned by a woman, it directly impacts the whole family. So with that intention, we started creating the employments. Aside to that, there are indirect employments from the 2 units which we have created. Along with that, we wanted to convert the chemical farming to the chemical-free farming. We started encouraging the farmers to engage themselves into the chemical-free farming and start growing the oil seeds. With that, we were able to bring a kind of between 18 to 15% of their income were increased when they started doing this. We started promoting that now, and we started developing that ecosystem. So by doing all these things, approximately around 3,000 families we converted into a chemical-free oil as of now, with against a target of 1 lakh families as of now. So doing that is we just not restricting this to ourselves. We started training the youths. So far, we have trained around 60 to 80 youths, and there are 30 plus Ghanas are running in different villages. So many number of employments are created in those villages. So many number of bulls are saved from those villages. Those moments we made a small spark at this moment. To tell you that it's in precise, Desiri is a first venture company all in the world. At this moment, if I look at the whole world, nobody is having a 12 units extracting the edible oils through a traditional way. And we wanted to, like, as a part of our Atmanirbhar Bharat, we started supplying our products to the overseas market under Desi oil to Videshi soil. That's the concept which we took, and we started supplying to different countries like US, UK, and Canada. That's where our journey started, where we are standing as of now. Long way to go for us.
Fantastic. That's a fantastic line. Deshi oil for the Videshi public. Yeah, fantastic. That's fantastic. And I think two things that I take away, and maybe many of the students and the audience listening to us today, is that I think one of the critical things is to really go down to the field. Like you said, whether it was that 3,000 kilometer journey you took, or eventually the 15,000 kilometers and the villages that you went to discover the business that you want to focus on. So I think it's important for all of us listening today that I think it's you can't ignore the field work. While the glamour of the business and an owner and an entrepreneur might be there, but I think it takes a lot of hard work, as we just heard from Mahesha here. And I think the other thing which I see very, very prominently in what you just spoke about is that it's not just about the glamour. Quite often there is phenomenal success and a lot of entrepreneurial work that can be done in what is called as the back to basics. It's not just about creating the next Oyo or the next Uber, or the next Tesla. There is enough merit in creating the next, edible oil business, which is something which, like he said, was something that was kind of ignored 40 years ago. And we are reviving some of the traditional methods of doing business and creating a scalable, investable, future-ready, sustainable business out of it. So thank you very much, Mahesha, and I'm sure we'll learn a little more as we come around. And last but not the least, Nelson, coming to you, and I don't know, from that window at the back, can we probably get a view of the Kaziranga National Park there, because you're joining us from the beautiful Northeast location. So, I'd like to start by kind of asking you, when I looked at your profile in preparation for the session today, that you seem like someone who is very, very focused on really building ecosystems. And that too, building ecosystems in the Northeast of India, which traditionally isn't something considered as the entrepreneurial hub or entrepreneurial, ecosystem place to be. So what led you to pursue, doing this in the Northeast, to develop Eco Hub and also Bodhana, after having done fashion designing and boutique management? So again, someone who's kind of moved away from, what your traditional education was, and then starting to build an ecosystem. I'm sure the decision wouldn't have been easy, and there must have been something to do with passion. So I'd like to hear what drove you to do this, Nelson.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Vivek, for that wonderful question. You've spoken about Kaziranga and a lot of other stuff, but I think there is a common link between all the panelists here, that we are somewhere, risk takers. We've all taken the risks, and we've actually been involved in a corporate house. We've been working somewhere, and we decided to move into a different zone. And I wasn't any different. Being born and brought up in Assam, but I spent a decade in Bangalore. I did my education, and I was working for a corporate, for an Australian firm, a design firm. But somehow, I think the whole city life and the whole urbanization was taking a toll over my life. And I think that's because I was born in an environment that is so pristine and green and surrounded with tea gardens and hills, that you wanted something more meaningful in life that you want to do. And I think I reached that point after working for almost 5 years in a company in Bangalore, that you wanted a more, something that has more meaning and that you could connect to. And also the whole monotonous job that we're doing. So whenever I used to actually visit Assam for my vacations, I used to just go around and talk to people about, what are the issues that people were having. And and I had no idea if I would actually return. But of course, as you said, that Northeast is not something that is looked for entrepreneurship, or not much was actually happening at that time. I'm talking about 2008, 9. So when I used to return back to Bangalore after my vacations during 9, 10, the whole social entrepreneurship was actually booming in the country. And that is when I came across Mr. Arunachalam Muruganathan, who is considered to be the Padman of India. And he received the President's Award for his innovation to design a machine which produces low-cost sanitary pads. And I think because I also grew up in a school where we had a lot of community service work and we did a lot of community work, that whole service oriented thing to do something for the community was always there. Even when I was working in Bangalore during my weekends, I used to get engaged with a lot of NGOs and do a lot of social work. So when I started, attending these social summits where I came across people like this who were doing amazing work, those were like really inspiring. And that's when I again returned for my vacation to Assam, I then started to talk to a lot of women about, their health issues. Because I think at that time I was trying to silently make plans that maybe I want to shift to something like this into social entrepreneurship. And even if I had to do it, maybe why not do it where you're born and, develop that zone. So I met a lot of women, I met a lot of girls, and I found out that out of all the issues that they were facing in the health, there was a lot of work that needed to be done in the menstrual hygiene space, in the sanitation part, in the reproductive and sexual health space, because there wasn't any work, because also that it is a subject of taboo and stigma. So I just found a good connection and a right fit that, if I move in and I kind of provide employment to a lot of underprivileged rural women in this small town that I live in, because women didn't have a place to go and work and, earn a living. So providing employment, also producing something which there was a need for. So with, I think, all of that, I came in. But at the same time, I could not support a lot of women because we had like a sufficient number of people that we could actually employ. But there were a lot of women who heard about us and who wanted to get connected and work with us. So that's when I think my whole design skills that I learned in my design school, the fashion design thing, I brought that into place. I got all the women together and I told them, what are you good at? So not that they're very educated and literate, but they're good in their hand skills. They're very good in embroidery. They have hand looms at home. So we then started adopting a lot of villages. And in Assam, you might know that a lot of households have their own hand looms. They weave their own textiles. And the whole handloom industry was actually dying. And it is still not, doing really good because of the machine looms that are coming. So we started supporting a lot of handloom woven artisans where we used to create the base textile and then do like a surface ornamentation of tanka embroidery, which a lot of ladies around were specialized in. We started making a lot of accessories, a lot of garments, home furnishing, textile, stationery, and slowly and steadily we started to, market them to a lot of brands across India, online, promoting Northeast and handmade stuff. So we as probably just trying to connect a lot of dots, and how can you actually utilize your expertise in small ways, which can actually create a lot of impact. So I have just in a small town close to Kaziranga, but we now have networks to a lot of places around the world. And that kind of just, motivates me. And it's not been easy. I mean, with social entrepreneurship, I think every day is a struggle. You have to go down, dirty your hands. You have to sit on the machine and maybe work at times when your employees don't come. You will have to maybe go and deliver goods. So as you rightly said, it's not a very like a decorated stuff, but you really need to get your hands dirty. And I have done my bit of all of that struggle. And you can imagine for a man to kind of work in the menstrual hygiene space is extremely difficult, and at a zone where this is considered to be such a huge taboo. So I've had my share of, all the struggles. But today, when I look back, I started in 2012 with the Eco Hub, and then slowly we built upon the NGO, which is the Bodhana, through which we do a lot of education and awareness on menstrual health hygiene and sexual reproductive health and gender. And today we can successfully say that we've at least covered more than 50,000 women and girls across Northeast in the neighboring states like Nagaland, Meghalaya, Assam, Arunachal. So I think that's just been how the journey is.
Fantastic, Nelson. Thank you very much. And I think, again, a couple of things that I took away is don't let the geography really impact your vision. Your dream is not dependent on the geography you come from, and you've kind of very beautifully personified that just because I come from a small town, and the most famous thing around me is the national park, but I've created my own method of becoming famous and making my location known. And the second thing is really, how do you use application of the skills you learned? A lot of people may think that what does a fashion designer do in a small town, running a social business, that too around menstrual health. And you've demonstrated beautifully that how you've used all of that and worked with the women there. So it was fantastic to understand the businesses that we are kind of talking about through all four of you. I'd now like to move to a little bit of a fast track. I have a few more questions, and given the fact that we might want to take a few audience questions at the end, I will go around and ask you some pointed questions, which will help people understand a few more aspects about this Atmanirbhar Bharat and how, this is important to us. So Yogesh, if I was to start coming back to you, and when we look at the fact that your journey, I'm sure, was not easy. And a lot of people think when they are looking at a business of starting a new company that I want to have a range of products. I want to be the next Unilever. I want to be the next FMCG giant. And here you were very focused on saying that, I want to keep my product range to a lesser number of products, but really do a very deep work. And I think you've done an outstanding work in the oral care, with the toothbrushes that you have done. So talk to us a little about why smaller product range, so that the audience can understand that it's not always about having 200 products in your range. Sometimes you can be very successful with a small product range.
Yeah, it's really necessary to start with the small. And you correctly said, if you are coming from the other background, then you can bring a other different prospect to that particular business or that particular idea. The same happened with me when I was started studying about what kind of a eco-friendly product or what kind of a products I should be enter into. And then when I saw this bamboo plastic toothbrush, I started studying what is the impact of one plastic toothbrush in my life. And when I was started studying, I came across lots of stunning facts, like all the plastic toothbrush since which we are using since our childhood still exist on this planet, because plastic takes around maybe 400 years to decompose. So then I started thinking, when was the first brush made? Then I realized 1938, the first brush is officially made. And till since that day till today, also all the plastic toothbrush are still exist in this planet. And when we start talking about this, I started reading some numbers. So India alone consuming more than 20 crore toothbrush per month.
Wow.
So, and not only India, so you can just understand the world population and all the toothbrush which we are using, and all those brushes are directly going to landfill or the ocean and disturbing the ecosystem. So, but unfortunately, when we talk about the plastic pollution, we never discuss about plastic toothbrush. We always discuss about PET bottles, carry bags, and
Correct.
toys and all. So I thought, okay, let's start with something. And it's always said, is a small change can be a very good impact. So we started making those toothbrushes. I went to lots of countries, just started studying this material. Is it possible or not? And then we come up with very good design and started working. So as I told you, so no one is a small player, no one is a small entity. Everyone is having a huge capacity, because everyone is unique person, right? So my entire team till so far in last 5 years, we started with from nowhere, and today we proudly saying that we saved more than 14.8 kilogram of plastic waste just using a single product, that is a bamboo toothbrush. So that is a huge impact. I think everyone can make in their life. So let's start with something. Don't try to do like, yeah, you should be a jack of all, but you should be master of something. So that is very important. You should be try lots of products. We also started with lots of products, but right now we focusing only on brush, because we know that is the potential and we need to do. We can justify that product with the focused. So that is the reason, as you correctly said, we don't want to explore so many things. Like bamboo is having capacity to replace more than 1,800 known bamboo uses in the world. But we want to focus only on one single product so that we can justify bamboo as well as the product.
Fantastic.
And after seeing this video or after seeing our work, maybe lots of students will be encouraged and they can take one by one product, so that we can have not only single bamboo India, but more than 1,000 bamboo India. Because we need,
fantastic.
Yeah, we need lots of companies, lots of innovator to make these kind of products, because
So even if each of them takes up just 5 products, we're still talking about over 500 entrepreneurs that can be in this space, so fantastic, razor sharp focus and really grow. And it's amazing to hear, Yogesh, as I heard from you in our talks earlier, that 98% of the toothbrushes you prepare are completely eco-friendly, degradable, non-plastic, except for the bristles. And I'm sure you'll soon find a method.
Only this part.
Yes, only very soon you'll find a method to replace that too. So thank you, Yogesh. And coming to you, Naren, again to break another myth. A lot of times people think that, if you are running a for-profit company, like you are running as Nandu's, what does it have to do with social impact? You're a for-profit company. You don't do anything in the social impact space. And I think, I personally don't think so, but I'd like to hear from you. What's your perspective on for-profit, social impact? Are they mutually exclusive? What do you think?
Well, I really didn't look at it that way. I said, I can do good if it makes economic sense, right? People can't live on water, air, and, good wishes. Okay, somebody's got to pay the bills, right? So there has to be an economic angle for everything that we do. Then only you can do good to society and to people at large. So in our case, my single focus was, how can I improve the retail experience of chicken in India? Okay. Secondly, how can I produce a product that consumers can safely consume and take care of their health? Protein is a great, it's very essential for human beings. In fact, a lot of Indians are deficient in protein. Now this protein comes from a meat source like chicken, and there's indiscriminate use of antibiotics there in animal production. So that's what I wanted to solve. Now, how did we go about solving this? We select, today for Nandu's, we are close to 300 farmers who grow specifically for Nandu's. Okay. Now, these 300 farmers they don't have to invest any capital. They just have to bring their infrastructure and their efforts to the equation. That's it. They align with us. We teach them how to grow poultry in a very modern, sustainable way without the use of any chemicals, and specifically the antibiotics. We technology enable them. So we have built a technology platform which is deployed at their level, where the farmer can actually capture the health of the flock every single day. And that helps us be very proactive to animal welfare. Now, how does that help the farmer? One is no financial risk. We give them the chicks, we give them the feed. No risk from any of the disease, or no risk in production, because we train them on poultry skills. So there are currently 300 farmers who work with us and continuously earn predictable incomes throughout the year. Okay. So in fact, on my LinkedIn page, I felt so compelled to take some of these stories that, we are featuring 5 stories, ladies and, village folk, women who are in their 60s and 50s, who are tending to our flocks and making a very good living. They earn anywhere from 8 to 12 lakhs a month. Per annum. And for a farmer, that's big monies, right? Today, some good software engineer to begin with earns about 80,000. Now, a farmer living in his village, feeling proud that he's producing something, we are improving their life. So, where there was a commercial sense, we took that back to the farmer and said, can we improve his life? So that's the whole angle in which we operate at the village level.
Fantastic. So very clearly what I hear, and I have written recently, I think the problem is not the profit. The problem occurs when profiteering happens, and that's where organizations need to, especially in the social impact space, be careful that, and you have very, very well articulated here that profit is not the bad word. Profiteering may be a bad word. And if you're siphoning the money off that farmer to buy your next BMW or your next vacation in Hawaii, then that's the problem. But if you're making money and, growing that 300 farmers to 500 farmers in the next 2 years, I think it's a very good thing to do. So good. Thank you for dispelling that myth, Naren. And coming to you, Mahesh, to dispel one more myth here. A lot of times people think that, these glamorous entrepreneurs who've got it right, who've made it big and, who today have multiple stores, multiple businesses, they must have got it right the first time. So was it like that for you when you decided to jump into the edible oil? Did you get it right the first time, or, or it's easier said than done that way?
Definitely, it's my first entrepreneurial journey. Like the way you said, it's definitely it's not a cakewalk. Last 4 years was not a cakewalk. Neither it's with a lot of challenges to start with. Convincing our families of quitting our almost settled career in the corporates. Talking about our madness of starting the journey of entrepreneurship was the first challenge which we came across. Of course, everyone come across with the similar challenges whenever it comes, because if they are starting their career late 30s, 40s, it's that's one of the biggest challenge which we came across. So we did broke that. It's like the way Yogendra was mentioning. It's we also did informed our families, just give us 1 year. If nothing works out, we are confident to get the job back. So leave us 1 year. Don't ask anything. We'll do something. If nothing works out, we'll come back to corporate. Somehow they understood us, thanks to our families. That's the first challenge which we come across, and most of them will come across on the similar stage. And the second one is setting up an organization at the initial stages. Of course, we'll have a lot of teething issues. Many times we go down, we really go down many of the times. I'm lucky to have other 2 colleagues. Almost we work together 8-10 years, and any one of us out of 3 we go down, another one will be there to pull up. So those teething issues and those partnering is the one of the important things which I felt. Otherwise, many of the times we would have broke down and said, okay, this is not for me. Let me go back to my job. That was the things we would have taken. That's the second challenge which we came across. Of course, many of the others will come, and a kind of experience which I want to share. Any breakdown, it's a temporary. Definitely it comes back and it fixes over a period of due course of time, but we need to be a bit patient on that. That's the second thing which is on the journey. And the third thing is especially the myth which is on the entrepreneurship, which many of us, at least I have seen, we need to make it very clear for ourselves what's the purpose which we are getting into that journey. Many times if I want to make a purpose, I like the way Nandustikan made it, we wanted to make farmers happy. There is a economic model should be available. Let it make it very clear. I want to earn a crores of rupees. Let it make it very clear. A bold statement has to happen, and we need to believe. But talking something and taking another things will not lead us for a longer journey. These are all the few things. Definitely, I think it's as a challenges which we need to come across and move forward, keeping all these things aside.
Fantastic. Transparency is very important. Your behavior and your actions should speak your words. So it's fantastic. Thank you very much. And coming again, Nelson, to you. A lot of times people think one of the key ingredients in a business is the human resources. and hence a lot of people think that for your business to be successful, you have to be in a Bangalore, in a Mumbai, in a Gurgaon, because that's where the talent is, and if you can't be doing a good business if you're not in one of these high talent areas. But here's a business where you've established where these talent from these so-called fancy institutes or fancy cities is now coming to you in the Northeast, in the villages, whether it's from TISS or from other sources. So how did you go about it? How do you break that myth that, because I have the best talent, my business will be successful sitting in the Northeast?
Yeah, so I think it has never been about, this big institute interns coming and, working with you. I think if you're just doing good work and, you are telling your stories either through social media or through your website or even word of mouth, and people like your services and products and they hear about you, they would just want to connect with you. And we now have a TISS in Guwahati in Assam as well. We have a lot of universities in Assam which have social work and they have masters in social work. So there are a lot of students who are coming out every year. And, I would say maybe 5 to 6 years ago, there weren't a lot of social enterprises or NGOs which provided a platform, or let's say there weren't a lot of organizations. But now I think there are a lot of organizations, and I think when you're doing good work, there are people who want to connect with you, and they just contact you. We never hype ourselves with the fact that we have this interns or there are these people who are working with us. But somehow, at the end of the day, when you do good work, today, sitting in the small town called Bokaghat, close to Kaziranga National Park, we are connected with an organization in Los Angeles. The period End of Sentence, the movie, which won Oscars, they found our work and they wanted to partner with us in Assam. So, it's just about the work that you do, and people would just anyways want to connect and, collaborate. And I think that's the new thing, and that's how it should be, that you cannot work in silos, but have to work in collaborations. And if you have, if you have the knowledge, you have to spread it. You have to let other people know. And only then your communities can grow together.
Sure. Thank you very much. We'll take a few audience questions at this stage. So I have one for you, Yogesh, where Lindsay is asking what measures has to be taken to promote bamboo toothbrush or natural products. Today, most educated people look for trendy products. They want fashionable. So how do you go about doing this job? So over to you, Yogesh.
Yeah, actually, this is a really good question. And I can say the sustainability is trending now. If you see, now lots of celebrities are coming forward just to promote these products without any cost. We are very fortunate that Shraddha Kapoor, Diya Mirza, Juhi Chawla, Randeep Hooda, Diana Penty, all those came forward and they are using our products since last 3 years. And for each and every order, they are paying me well in advance. Not only they buying the products from me, they are promoting free of cost. And right now, if you see on Instagram or social media, people are searching these kind of products. So now sustainability is in trending in the in India at least. And foreigner, as I told you in the last session also, now everything is coming back to India. Whatever the idea we given to the world, now it's coming from their root. So I don't think like within a couple of years or maybe next year, you will find those products easily available on the retail store or Kirana stores easily.
Fantastic. Thank you. So Naren, another question for you is, with this whole debate going on about vegan, about going to organic vegetarian meat, what do you see as the industry, the future for the business you are in?
Well, it all depends on where the consumer is on his food journey, what I call as a food journey. So the Western consumer is far ahead of the Indian consumer in terms of his food journey. Why I say that? Look at the per capita meat consumption in India. It's 4.6 kgs per person. In a country like Sri Lanka also, it is 14 plus kgs. Okay, and in the UAE it's 46 kgs, and America is almost on those lines. So in India right now, the meat consumption is growing at around 10% per annum. Okay, and contrary to popular belief, 74% of India is non-vegetarian. It's an insane number. It's a $45 billion business, and people love to eat meat, right? And of course, it's given. Sundays is biryani day. That's it. There's no question about it. There's no competition there, right? The family gets together on Sunday because there's meat on the table. But really, I think sustainable, like Yogesh was saying, sustainability is just not a buzzword. It is a way. It has to become a way of life, right? Yogesh, I'm a big fan of your bamboo toothbrush. I use it myself. And in fact, about 2 years ago, I stopped using Dove soap because I was going through so many containers. It was crazy. So I use bar soap. I've gone back to a bar soap. So each of us can become sustainable, right? In some way or the other. So meat business itself is questioned on sustainability because it's very heavy on the environment. Fantastic. Therefore, we have pledged to become sustainable in meat production. That is where Infectify comes in. All of the meat that gets wasted at Nando's goes back into insect farming. It gets recycled, upcycled, and recycled into organic manure. We use that insect protein back into feeding animals, which is their natural diet. The chickens have been eating insects forever. So multiple things are happening there, right? Now, when it comes to what they call as plant protein chicken burger, I don't understand the whole meaning of why would you call a plant product a chicken nugget or a chicken burger. There's no reference. The meat comes from animals. It doesn't come from plants, right? But of course, it's a growing market. I don't see it having any big influence on the meat market in at least the next 10 years. It's a niche product operating in a niche market, but it's a fantastic product. I think there's a great future for it, but not right now. And one has to remember that plant protein based products are uber processed. Okay, uber is higher processing than ultra processed, because what they're doing is they're using soya protein, pea protein. They're extracting protein from these pulses, from these grains, and that takes a lot of processing. And they're trying to water.
Yeah.
It's a lot of processing power, and to make it feel like chicken, they're adding a lot of other chemicals and binders and additives and flavors. It's crazy. It's crazy. I think as a standalone product, it'll do very well. There should be no comparison to meat for it. I think it should stand on its own merit. Yeah. And
coexist.
It's a 10-year coexist. What I call as a co-opetition. They are in co-opetition with the meat industry, right? In the next 10 years, I think they will make some progress. That's my take on it.
Fantastic. So if any of you are thinking about getting into the meat business, don't get worried. Here's Naren telling you 10 years, there is still a safe, at least 10 years. I can hazard a guess it's even longer than 10 years. So yeah, so it's even longer than that. So one question for you, Mahesh, is that, I see a question from Kiran saying that, have you ever regretted being an entrepreneur owing to the challenges you had, especially when you were taking those long journeys? Did it ever feel like saying, okay, let me give up and go back to the cushy journey? And given that we are at the end of it, I'd like you to kind of be brief and tell me, did you feel like that? And have you had those occasions?
Definitely those occasions keeps coming, those thoughts keep coming in front of our face. It's many times when we broke down on various occasions, either the product is not come on time or the customers, you put all the efforts, as customer says, okay, this is not what I wanted. It's there are many times we feel this much of efforts I would have put in my corporate, I would have been in a different place. This is the kind of things which we come across. But one thing which I always, like the way I said earlier, whenever we go down, whenever we break down, someone will be there for us to help. That's the two other colleagues. And also we always question our purpose. Anytime when we go for these kinds of breakdown, we question our purpose. Is the purpose is important, or these breakdowns are important? So many a times we feel purpose is important. Breakdowns are part of this life. So that's where we are keeping this journey in the last 4 years. Many breakdowns, many things, 2 years, no salary, nothing. It was challenging, but that's the breakdown, but we need to face it. But we were aware this is going to happen. So in simple words, breakdowns are part of life. Just we need to live with that, like how you said in the beginning, we need to live with the COVID. It's the way we need to live with the breakdown, and automatically it patches up. All the thing is we require patience, and the purpose always needs to be questioned by us.
Fantastic. The power of vision. If you create a strong purpose, strong vision, that it helps you take it forward. And the last question to you, Nelson, I hear from Subramanya V, is that, what are your insights on encouraging students to become entrepreneurs, especially in the sustainable space? How can students play a role? Because I think Atmanirbhar cannot be without students being part of it. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think, as I said earlier at the beginning, that there comes a lot of risk factors, to be an entrepreneur. And most of the times, our family does not provide that support. Everybody is very, very conscious about the fact that, you get into a corporate, you have a salary that comes in every month. But I think we need to create an environment where we need to encourage and that encouragement can come from families, from peers, from faculties, teachers, and that should actually start from a very initial, from the schooling, I think, not when they reach universities. And I think, the future generation is on the youth. A lot of young generation should come up, but it is not easy. We need to take the risk, and you might not kind of have the luxury, as you said, of going into a lot of vacations. I'm talking about the social entrepreneurship part, but I think the fulfillment at the end of the day is nowhere when you compare to even a holiday in Hawaii or anything as such. So I think this is a more meaningful approach when you look at, doing a business with the social impact. And I think Narendra also explained that you need to pay your bills at the end of the day. But at the same time, I think when you go to bed at night, when you feel that, okay, this is the impact that you've created for at least 5 people today or a small community, that's so fulfilling. So it's basically, even Mahesh at one moment said, it's a choice that, you decide, and never in life can you actually make a right choice. It's either what you appropriately felt at that moment of time. And there is no regrets. Even if you fail, it's okay, we can always get up. So I think just creating an environment where we support a lot of people to kind of just go in that direction, I think is what we need to do at this moment.
Fantastic. And that's why I said in my opening remarks that when I saw your profile, I saw you an ecosystem builder, and there you ratified what I kind of read through your profile. And I think student entrepreneurship is very important because, entrepreneurial journey is about finding problems around you, solving those problems, and sometimes they may become enterprises. But even if they don't become an enterprise, if you're an entrepreneur, you have built the ability to spot a problem and find a solution. And that's why when they say serial entrepreneurs, these are not people who make a pot of money and then sit back and say, okay, now I'm going to relax. They are people who, like Naren described earlier, have that kida, that I have to now find the next problem and solve the next problem. And if we can put that kida up early in the student stage itself, I think, the journey is going to be fantastic. And I think, listening to the 4 of you and the amazing journeys you have, I think we could spend the next few hours and still continue to discover new elements to Atmanirbhar Bharat and becoming self-reliant. But I'm just being careful of the time. We've already crossed the time a little bit. So thank you very much. And it's absolutely outstanding to see we've had more than 200 people who've been consistently listening to the amazing stories all 4 of you had. So thank you very much, Naren, Yogesh, Mahesha, and Nelson, for joining us today and sharing your outstanding stories on self-reliance, on how, future can be created out of sustainable businesses, how profit and profiteering, how we need to be careful about that. And, one thing I think is common between all 5 of us is that we by and large are all what I like to call corporate jump outs. I know we've done some stints in the corporate world and decided to jump out of that and do something because that's where our passion lies. And I think it was beautifully described by both Mahesh and Nelson that vision, passion really drives us in those down moments that we have, when you want to give everything up and run back to that cushy job. I think the purpose really drives you to say, no, you came here for a purpose. You came here to do something. Don't give up. Yes, Naren, you have something to say.
I'm looking at all the young minds who are listening to us, old farts, right? And I'm thinking, when I look back myself, I was in quite a hurry to get somewhere. Okay. My advice to everybody is enjoy the moment. Okay. Be in the moment, work in the moment, because you know what? It all adds up to something at some point in time. Don't be in a hurry to get somewhere. Okay. You got a shitty job, deal with it. You got a less paying job, pay your dues. That is part of your learning, and that is what is going to make you who you are in the future. So, I practice mindfulness. After many years, I discovered that being in the moment is what makes a difference, right? So my advice and my parting note to all the young minds here is be in the moment, guys. Just enjoy whatever you're doing. Don't be in a hurry to get anywhere and do something, because it is all going to add up. Okay. So
and as they say, the journey is as important as the destination. And I think that's what Naren is talking about. Enjoy the journey, enjoy what you have along the way, because, that's as important as the destination. So thank you very much. And with that, I'd like to hand the stage back to the organizers. Sorry that we were a few minutes behind time. But once again, thank you very much to all 4 panelists. And the journey or the collaboration will just start. I'm sure a lot of the students can reach out to any one of us and we can kind of continue the conversations forward. And I would like to wish everyone who's going to be bitten by this bug after our conversation today to get into this journey of entrepreneurship, welcome to that amazing journey of creating self-reliant individuals and a self-reliant nation, and at some stage a self-reliant world. So thank you to the Jain University team for asking us to join you and share our views and thoughts today. Thank you very much to all 4 panelists, and handing it back to the organizers.
Thank you, panelists, for such an insightful, informative, and engaging discussion. It was indeed a great learning opportunity. I'm sure our participants will have a lot to take home from your discussions. Thank you, sir. Over to you, Shilpi, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all the panelists and Ms. Shifa. Now I would request our conference co-convener, Dr. Varalakshmi, to present the proceedings of the conference.
Good afternoon to one and all present here. On behalf of Center of Management Studies, Jain University, I thank you all for joining us for the 2-day international conference on Atmanirbhar Bharat, Self-Reliant India, Building Global Competitiveness Through Innovation, Integrity, Inclusion in collaboration with Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce, BCIC. The conference started on 25th June with 2 masterclasses by eminent speakers, Professor U. Dinesh Kumar from IIM Bangalore, Mr. Amrit Bharadwaj from Cardiff University, UK. The speakers shared their knowledge and enhanced our mental horizons on ethical AI and need for robust auditing regime. Today, we had 3 keynote speakers, Dr. Chenraj Roychandjain, Chancellor, Jain deemed to be University, Bangalore, Mr. Prakash Belawadi, a renowned film and a theatre personality, and Mr. T.R. Parashuraman, the BCIC president, followed by 2 plenary sessions highlighting the various aspects of Atmanirbhar Bharat. The first plenary session was an administrative panel by BCIC, and it was about ease of doing business. The second one was the fire chat just now you witnessed, which was a great honor to have all the social entrepreneurs with us to discuss about the challenges and the opportunities that they faced. We also had 120 paper presenters at this conference today. We believe this conference was edifying educational experience for all of you. Thank you. Over to Shilpi ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Varalakshmi. Now I would request Dr. Sahana to announce the Best Paper Awards.
Dear paper presenters, each paper went through rigorous reviewing process and plagiarism report was also abstracted. Based on the reviewer's review, plagiarism report and session chair scores, 4 papers received the highest scoring. So the first Best Paper Award goes to Samini Varghese and Jyoti Kumar for the paper Burnout, Work Engagement and Turnover Intention, Impact on Educators in Higher Educational Institutions. Congratulations, ma'am. And the second Best Paper Award is being tied. So the second Best Paper Award goes to Shushmita for the paper Study into the Cyber Security Awareness Initiatives and Identify Gaps for School Learners in India. Congratulations, ma'am. The second Best Paper Award goes to Nagarjuna Saideni and Dr. Sandeep Shastri for the paper Use of Focus Group Discussion Method in Forming Up the Research Approach on Influence of Ancient India Wisdom among Indian IT industry leaders. Congratulations, sirs. The third Best Paper Award goes to Sonia David and Dr. Uma Warrior for the paper Film-Based Counseling on Adolescent Body Image, a Pilot Study. Congratulations. So now I will hand over to Shilpi ma'am.
Thank you so much, Sahana ma'am, for announcing the Best Paper Awards. Now I will request Dr. Hemlata to give the word of thanks. Dr. Hemlata?
Yes.
Thank you.
ನಡೆದಿರುವಂತಹ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸಜ್ಜನರ ಸಂಘ ಹೆಜ್ಜೆಯನ್ನು ಸವಿದಂತೆ ಎಂಬುವ ನುಡಿಯೊಂದಿಗೆ ಜೈನ್ ಡೀಮ್ ಟು ಬಿ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯದ ಸೆಂಟರ್ ಫಾರ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಸ್ಟಡೀಸ್ ಮತ್ತು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಚೇಂಬರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿ ಮತ್ತು ಕಾಮರ್ಸ್ BCICಯ ಸಹಯೋಗದೊಂದಿಗೆ ಆತ್ಮನಿರ್ಭರ ಭಾರತ, ಸ್ವಾವಲಂಬಿತ ಭಾರತ, ಸಮಗ್ರತೆ, ಆವಿಷ್ಕಾರ ಮತ್ತು ಸೇರ್ಪಡೆಯ ಮೂಲಕ ಜಾಗತಿಕ ಸ್ಪರ್ಧೆಯನ್ನು ಕಟ್ಟುವುದು ಎಂಬ ವಿಷಯದ 2 ದಿನಗಳ ಅಂತಾರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯ ವಿಚಾರ ಸಂಕಿರಣದ ಕೊನೆಯ ಹಂತವಾದ ವಂದನಾರ್ಪಣಾ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಬಂದಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಮೊಟ್ಟ ಮೊದಲಿಗೆ ಜೈನ್ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯದ ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷರಾದ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಚಂದ್ರಾಜ್ ರಾಯ್ಚಂದ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಹೃತ್ಪೂರ್ವಕವಾದಂತಹ ವಂದನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಅಭಿವಂದನೆಯನ್ನ ಸಲ್ಲಿಸುತ್ತೇವೆ. ಅಂತೆ ಜೈನ್ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯದ ಸೆಂಟರ್ ಫಾರ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಸ್ಟಡೀಸ್ ವತಿಯಿಂದ ಭಾಗಿಯಾದಂತಹ ಉಪಕುಲಪತಿಗಳಾದಂತಹ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ರಾಜಸಿಂಗ್ ಅವರಿಗೂ, ಮುಖ್ಯ ಭಾಷಣಕಾರರಾದಂತಹ ಶ್ರೀ ಪ್ರಕಾಶ್ ಬೆಳವಾಡಿ ಅವರಿಗೂ, ಶ್ರೀ ಪರಶುರಾಮನ್ ಅವರಿಗೂ, ಪ್ಯಾನಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಮತ್ತು ಮಾಡರೇಟರ್ಗಳಾದಂತಹವರಿಗೂ ತಮ್ಮ ಅಮೂಲ್ಯವಾದಂತಹ ಸಮಯವನ್ನ ನಮ್ಮೊಂದಿಗೆ ಕಳೆದಿರುವರು ಅವರೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಹೃತ್ಪೂರ್ವಕವಾಗಿ ವಂದಿಸುತ್ತೇವೆ. ಸದಾ ತಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರೋತ್ಸಾಹದ ನುಡಿಗಳ ಮೂಲಕ ಉತ್ಸಾಹಿದಾಯಕದ ಮಾತುಗಳನ್ನು ಆಡುತ್ತಾ ಬೆಂಬಲ ನೀಡುವ ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಭಾಗದ ನಿರ್ದೇಶಕರಾದ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ದಿನೇಶ್ ನೀಲಕಂಠ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ವಂದನೆಗಳು. ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಭಾಗದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮುಖ್ಯಸ್ಥರುಗಳಿಗೂ ನಾವು ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ವಂದನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಸಲ್ಲಿಸಿದೆವು. ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಯಶಸ್ಸಿಗೆ ಕಾರಣರಾದ ವಿಚಾರ ಸಂಕಿರಣದ ಸಂಯೋಜಕರುಗಳಾದಂತಹ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಅನಿತಾ ವಾಲಿಯಾ, ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಅನಿಲ, ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ವರಲಕ್ಷ್ಮಿ, ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಕಿರಣ್ ಮಾನೆ, ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಸಹನಾ, ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಸನ್ನಾ, ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಸಾರಾ, ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಆತ್ಮೀಯವಾದಂತಹ ವಂದನೆಗಳು. ಈ ವಿಚಾರ ಸಂಕಿರಣದಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮೊಂದಿಗೆ ಸಹಕರಿಸಿದಂತಹ ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸಕ ವರ್ಗ ಮತ್ತು ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸಕೇತರ ವರ್ಗದವರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಆತ್ಮೀಯವಾದಂತಹ ವಂದನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಸಲ್ಲಿಸ್ತೇವೆ. ಕೊನೆಯದಾಗಿ ಆದರೆ ಅಂತ್ಯವಲ್ಲದ ಗೋಷ್ಠಿಯ ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷತೆಯನ್ನು ವಹಿಸಿದಂತಹ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾನ್ಯರಿಗೂ, ವಿಚಾರ ಸಂಕಿರಣದಲ್ಲಿ ಪತ್ರಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಮಂಡಿಸಿದಂತಹ ಸಹೃದಯ ಹಿತಾಸಕ್ತಿಯ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಾವು ಹೃತ್ಪೂರ್ವಕವಾಗಿ ಅಭಿವಂದನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಸಲ್ಲಿಸ್ತೇವೆ. ಶ್ರೀತಿ ಮೇಡಮ್, ಮುಂದುವರಿಸಿ.
Thank you, ma'am. As we have come to the end of two-day international conference on Atmanirbhar Bharat, building global competitiveness through innovation, integrity, and inclusion in collaboration with Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce. On behalf of Center for Management Studies, Jain deemed to be university, I would like to take the opportunity to thank BCIC for collaborating for this conference and a few people without whose support this conference wouldn't have been possible. First of all, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to our Honorable Chancellor, Dr. Chandraj Roychand, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Raj Singh, our keynote speakers, Mr. Prakash Bilwadi and Mr. Prashu Raman, all the panelists and moderators for accepting our request to be part of this conference without hesitations despite their busy schedule. I would like to also thank our director, Dr. Dinesh Neelkant, for his unconditional support and encouragement. I would also like to thank and acknowledge the efforts and hard work of the conference organizing committee, Dr. Anita Walia, Dr. Kiran Mane, Dr. Varalakshmi, Dr. Hemlata, Ms. Anila Bajpayee, Ms. Sara Elias, Dr. Sana Saima, Dr. Sahana, and Ms. Saida Shifa. I also thank and acknowledge the support of all HODs, program coordinators, teaching and the non-teaching staff of CMS for making this conference successful. Last but not least, we would also like to acknowledge the contribution of our paper presenters and our ever supportive and enthusiastic participants and attendees. Thank you all for showing your interest in our conference. This brings us to the end of the remarkable, memorable, and knowledgeable event. We hope that innovative ideas shared during the conference would have nourished your mind. On behalf of Center for Management Studies, Jain deemed to be university, we promise you that this may be the end of today's session, but undoubtedly this is a new beginning. We hope your experience had been productive and fruitful, and we assure you to continue this legacy of knowledge sharing in future as well. Before we sign off, we request everybody to rise for the national anthem. Thank you once again. Take care and have a wonderful day. Thank you, everyone.